Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming to our panel. Three very distinguished guests in the blockchain and technology space, and we're very excited to kick off this conversation. So I like to make this interactive to start with. Raise your hand if anybody here uses cryptocurrencies besides trading and investments.
I do.
Okay. Raise your hand if you think that you will be using cryptos or blockchain technology in your everyday life in 5 years. All right. So a clear winner there. More show of hands in the second question. I think that's the theme of our conversation, the evolution of blockchain utility. Fewer hands were raised in the first question, which is how many people currently use blockchain outside of investments, and more hands were raised in the second question, looking into the future. I'd like to start by asking the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, Brittany Kaiser, Martín Migoya, and Carolina Abenante, and talk a little bit about your work. Let's start with Brittany.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Kaiser. I like to refer to myself as a data rights activist. I spend most of my time as a founder of the Own Your Data Foundation doing digital literacy training. So I teach families, corporates, and governments about how technology works, data rights, cybersecurity, media literacy, screen time management, counter cyberbullying, and things of that nature. And then my company, the Own Your Data Technologies, I advise over 20 blockchain technology companies on how they can build out data protection, privacy, transparency mechanisms, permission structures, advanced use of smart contracting, NFTs, et cetera, and so forth. And I've been in the industry since 2011.
Great. My name is Martín Migoya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Globant. I started this company almost 19 years ago in a weird country, in Argentina. And I started 4 guys in a garage, and today we're 26,000 people spread around 20 countries, creating technology for the largest brands in the planet, from Disney to Electronic Arts to Google. We have been working for these guys doing many different projects, and we're very proud. We got listed on the New York Stock Exchange, back in 2014, and we were very successful with that. But the most interesting thing we are doing is that we are reinventing the space of the professional services. A space that for more than 50 years has not been reinvented, has always been pretty much the same. And there's a lot of new things we're bringing to the market. We're very happy for that. And this place deserves, the professional service space deserves a reinvention, and we're trying to do that with our customers and with our team, which is really amazing. So some of them are here. Thank you. So this is what we do. Thank you.
Carolina.
Hello, I'm Carolina Abenante. I'm the co-founder of NYIAX. NYIAX is an advertising exchange, and we're built on the NASDAQ financial framework. That's why he mentioned NASDAQ on that. We have joint patents with NASDAQ in advertising, audience, and also multiple other asset classes. We streamline the process of contract management, and we use smart contracts and blockchain as our centralized ledger, so we can understand the idea of fraud, viewability, and also brand safety for our constituents.
Okay, perfect. So let's start by talking about the first question that was addressed in the opening by our MC, which is how businesses in particular can use blockchain technology. You'll notice that, well, not everybody here works for a business, and maybe they invest for themselves, but you'll notice that the first question, how many people currently use blockchain, fewer hands were raised in the second question. So how can we get adoption to a point where everybody in the room raises their hand and says, I'm currently using blockchain for not just crypto trading? Let's start with Martin, and we'll talk about how adoption can be enhanced over the next 5 years.
Absolutely. At Globant, we started, seeing this big, I would say, philosophical change that happened with 3.0 some years ago, and we created our own studio for the blockchain. And within that studio, we started to work with many different customers, and I would say that the moment we're living in terms of technology is really amazing, because for the first time there's a divorce between software and hardware that is happening, that is propelling this idea that software can be autonomous, software can be sovereign, And that is triggering a lot of applications that we are seeing in many different spaces, which, of course, crypto is one instance of that massive movement that is happening. Earlier today, we were discussing with David about how a central bank could be invented based on a blockchain. Why, us as citizens, we should not give the trust to a smart contract instead of giving a trust to the political system to print money. So applications will be all over the place. Mm-hmm. Financial sector is one of them. Payments is another one. But if we go, for example, to the insurance industry, I didn't know, but some colleagues told me that there is about $40 billion each year that are being paid on the insurance industry on duplicated accidents. Let's say one car has an accident, 2 insurance companies are paying for that.
Yes.
$40 billion. And why is that? Because there's no cooperation between the companies, because they don't trust each other. Well, blockchain could come up to put together a database that belongs to no one, but at the same time could be shared by everyone. So when something happens, you can go into that database and understand to the blockchain and understand what's happening if you are paying that or not. That's one application. You can keep going on the entertainment industry, everything that is happening with the NFTs. I mean, there's a lot of applications that can be done which are not just financials.
Carolina, let's talk about blockchain in the financial sector and how that's being implemented.
Well, when we started using blockchain, we actually were told, do you want to use blockchain by NASDAQ? NASDAQ had started using blockchain as an idea since about 2014, when they started looking at voting rights in various different countries. And you would never think of a financial exchange system that did that. They looked at that piece and they said, can you use that application in your iteration of our technology? And we said, yes, we'll use it as a centralized ledger. So we have been using it very successfully in a very large market, which is advertising. And now we're not looking at this as your data for the individuals. We're looking at it as more business to business. We can do that application also for individuals, for individual data use, so we know where your data came from, but we're using it as a compliance tool. Yeah. And what's so great about it is that, especially in two-sided markets, which New York Stock Exchange is, which NASDAQ is, you could have both parties looking at the contracts, looking at what is known as the title of provenance, and seeing the various iterations that are created. So you have that tracking system for it. And in that little aspect, right now, you're seeing a lot of companies utilizing it. So you don't know that your companies are using blockchain, but they may be at this point for supply chain management of a contract.
So Brittany, let's build on that, because you are the founder of your own nonprofit, Own Your Data. But prior to that, you were working at Cambridge Analytica. So you're very much intimate with the whole data building and collection process. Tell us how blockchain can be integrated with data provenance, data collection, data dissemination, and so on.
Absolutely. So I like how you touched on the philosophical change from Web 2 to Web 3, and that you specifically said you use blockchain as a compliance tool. So as someone who helped build a company you've probably heard of called Cambridge Analytica, and then I took myself through the whistleblowing process specifically because I saw that most governments, militaries, political parties, and companies that I was working with all around the world as a director at Cambridge Analytica, that their data architecture was not good enough. They did not know what data they held. They did not know how to keep it safe. They did not know how to protect their cybersecurity or even have any standards. And in general, there was no way for individuals whose data was being used by these organizations to have any transparency, any tracking and traceability, the ability to have the right to delete, get their data back, choose how their data was used or not. So in my opinion, the most important applications of blockchain technology for business are twofold. One, being able to first recognize that individuals should have ownership over their data, more control and permission structures on where it goes or not, why it is used for certain purposes or not, and if it's monetized, to be able to get a slice of that back to the individual. which now is enshrined in law in the state of California and soon to be in the New York Privacy Act that we are working on passing, and in many other countries around the world that are starting to implement a data ownership model. But secondly, for the widespread use of smart contracting. So smart contracts instead of paper contracts mean it's a self-executing contract that allows you to choose what the rights are, exactly what decisions you're making about where data can go, how it can be used, and then it self-executes when the 6 months or the year that you've decided to share that data for are over. And so it allows you to have those permission structures in an incredibly scalable and trustless way, where I don't have to trust the people that are using my data, but I can use technology that allows me to have a digital identity. They never get access to my personally identifiable information, but they can use valuable insights from my data at an aggregated, either pseudonymous or anonymous level, and still be able to use data science, use advanced forms of predictive analytics in order to accomplish so much without ever compromising my privacy.
I have a quick follow-up, and then we'll go back to the panel. So blockchain helps us track where the data is going and where it came from, but it doesn't give you ownership, right, which is what you were talking about. It doesn't enhance our privacy, does it?
It definitely does. So
Okay,
being
explain.
able to use encryption when you are sharing data means that you can sign a smart contract and say, this is who I'm happy to share my data with for this long, for these purposes, and then in a zero-knowledge way, people can use my data without actually getting a copy of it. And it's possible that then I can make sure that it's never shared with tons of other organizations and used for purposes that I would never agree to. So it does protect my privacy, especially when using a digital identity, meaning my personally identifiable information is never shared and never kept on anyone's database at all.
Okay, let's go back to the panel and address the last question in the description of this panel. What impact will the current crypto crash have? Show of hands if you think that the current crash will go even lower, bring prices down even lower. So about half the room, and show of hands if you think we're at the bottom, we're about to recover very soon. Wow, okay, this was a lot more bearish than I thought. I thought we were at a tech conference. Everyone's just, hopefully think, okay, that's fine, that's fair enough. All right, let's assume the audience is right. Let's assume things are going to get worse for the crypto sector in terms of prices, stock markets as well. I mean, crypto's been following the stock market. We were chatting offline, Carolina, right? So, the NASDAQ's been going down. We know Bitcoin's correlated with the NASDAQ. Let's assume that the audience is right and things will get worse. Prices will go down even further. Will we see a brain drain in the industry, Carolina?
It hasn't actually looked at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's gone down about 32.5%. Crypto's gone down much more than that. And if you look at Gunlatch, who's the bond king, you'll see that he says he wouldn't be surprised if it would go down to 10,000. Now, I don't believe him, but he has been right in several instances. It's a nice alternative currency that exists.
But you agree it's correlated, right, with stocks?
There is correlation to it. There is also an idea that it can be an inflationary hub similar to gold and other ideas of that. There needs to be more regulation that will come up to give that security and transparency to the individuals that are part of this. That is my opinion. It may not be the opinion of many people. It is an opinion that it also exists with the Senate in the United States. I don't look at outside the country because I'm a U.S. attorney, not a foreign attorney on it, but I do believe that there's going to be upward momentum. And in my industry, we're looking about 15%, and I know the people that are doing at this point in time, which are people from agencies that are looking for 15% in advertising and in other areas that are advertising related, that are going to use alternative currencies for business to business to buy and sell ads. So that means a lot. There is staying power for this going forward.
Okay, so you're not concerned about...
I'm not concerned about it. Everybody has a certain dips.
All right. Martin, 25,000 employees in your company. I'll just ask you straight up. Coinbase laid off 18% of your staff. Are you going to lay off 18% of your staff?
No way.
All right.
No way.
Good thing we cleared that up.
Any other thing to answer? No way. But I come from the future in a certain way.
Okay.
This is there's life after inflation. I come from Argentina, okay?
Oh, you do know.
So, in certain way, don't be that concerned about that because you guys will solve it very soon. I don't know when, but it will be solved soon. Anyway, what was the question?
Okay. All right, so you're not laying off
I
people.
got with the coming back from the future, and
or you came back from the future. All right, you're back in the present. The present day circumstances that cryptos have been crashing. Carolina addressed the problem, and she talked about how she's not concerned. Are you concerned about this crypto crash influencing businesses currently engaged in blockchain?
No, not really. I believe that, like any other new technology in the market space, there will be up and downs. We already live like 3 different ups and downs on the crypto space, which are very deep. They will keep on going. I think the underlying technology is much stronger than any other, technology right now that is happening. So, we may trust we may have doubts as we have doubts with internet back in 1990s, but it will happen. It will happen. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm not concerned about the applications. By the way, you were talking about, people owning data, and I'm totally convinced about it. Indeed, have you read the paper that Jack Dorsey just issued about Web 5.0? It's exactly what you're saying, about people owning data and letting others to know about the data, but not having the data scattered in hundreds of sites out there, needing to change password and going, one after another. So I believe these changing technologies that are happening in many different ways, including, with new ideas like what's happening now with Jack Dorsey and Web 5.0. Don't ask me why, but they get to 5.0. It's really interesting and will be a massive technological change moving forward.
And Brittany, I think people need to be aware that there's a difference between the crypto markets as securities, commodities, whatever you want to call them, and the underlying blockchain technology that's being used. I mean, they're independent of each other, are they not?
Absolutely. So distributed ledger technology has so many different applications as back-end data architecture. Most people here probably don't know how their iOS or Android functions, and you don't question the back-end architecture of it, but it is not nearly as safe as distributed ledger technologies. So right now we're getting into the details of how each blockchain, which is actually just a platform, how those actually function and the types of encryption methods that are used in order to make it safer and easier to automate especially. And so when we're thinking about that, that's a completely different application than speculative assets. But no, I'm not concerned about the crash either. I got my first Bitcoins at $1. It's, Bitcoin's up 20,000% since then, so I think it's all right.
So drinks on Brittany after this panel.
I wish I kept them all. But.
Okay, well, we have a few minutes left. Carolina, I'd like to, we'll ask all the questions, everyone the same question, but Carolina, I'd like to start with you. What do you think, not for businesses, but for the everyday layman, what do you think is the #1 application that will be developed for everyday life usage going forward? Do you think we'll all be using, for example, digital currencies are coming online. El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. Do you think we'll be buying coffee with Bitcoin soon? Anyway, what do you think?
Well, definitely the USD. That is one thing that is going to be happening.
Yeah.
There are many projects over there, and I know John Carlo's working on that quite a bit in DC. So we're going to see that advent of it. I do think that for privacy concerns, exactly what Brittany says, you're going to be able to own your privacy. So when you're dealing with any kind of ad that will come out, you will know that you have given permission for them to target you. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we have to deal with because we are dealing in 40 milliseconds in the time an ad is going to be shown. Blockchain doesn't utilize that, but can we use other technologies on top of it, such as clean rooms and others, that can house your wallets for your data in there, and then speed that up? I think that that's a possibility. There's going to be multiple technologies that are going to be used that you're going to see in e-commerce and also in advertising that are going to protect you and possibly give you an ownership to this and some kind of remuneration. And I think in the next 5 years, that's going to be a reality.
Martin?
Can I say 3?
You only have time for 1.
Central banks.
Yeah.
Entertainment with NFTs and everything that is happening there to redistribute the money in a much wiser way, and I will leave it there.
Okay, and Brittany?
Smart contracts for data ownership.
Okay.
Got it.
Good. Well, thank you for joining our panel. Our time is up, so thank you again to Brittany Kaiser, Carolina Abenante, and Martín Migoya. My name is David Lin, anchor and producer for Kitco. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Very good. Congratulations.